Hello, everybody. Happy 420 2021. Today we're doing government and security to get your 420 started off right.
There's another thing that this date commemorates, but we shouldn't talk about it. Instead, let's talk about an evil dictator. I'm joking, of course. Joe Biden's not smart enough to be a dictator. But he is mentioning some things that probably are a bit of a problem here in this country, and we probably should put some resources toward them.
Biden is rushing to protect the power grid as hacking increases. But what about the water grid? We've had all the stories about people trying to poison the water supply.
They did point out in the story that the water supply is dependent on the power supply.
Yeah.
So if we're going to follow the root of the problem all the way down, that is probably the place to start.
It turns out that if you can make some of the power transmission line transformers explode, much like the semiconductor industry, it would take us months to manufacture enough transformers to get the grid restored to normal operation.
And as a proof of concept, some people did figure out that certain transformers, if you could inject 40 lines of malicious code, you could make them explode.
So I think the national stockpile should include said high transmission line power transformers.
And if you're sitting here like listening to us talk about it, just read the article and feel even more terrified about how vulnerable we actually are.
Yeah, the power grid is definitely... I mean, we all learned that in Texas, right? I mean,
yeah.
And not just
that
Texas.
Hacking, but...
Everybody had their own power problems, but Texas really accentuated it.
Neglect and abject stupidity is that bad in Texas. Imagine what malicious actions would be.
Or imagine how bad it is in poorer states.
Puerto Rico? Did Puerto Rico ever get their electricity back on?
I don't think we even count them.
Sorry, Puerto Rico.
There's also been a bit of a spat in the international circles because Russia, once again, has been caught with her hand in the cookie jar. Now, ignore the fact that this is the same cookie jar that everybody's hand is in. Basically, there's no more room for hands in the cookie jar. But once in a while, you smack somebody for doing it because it's embarrassing.
The U.S. expels Russian diplomats and imposes sanctions for hacking. The Associated Press, for whatever reason, left out solar winds. Do I have your attention? This is about solar winds.
Yeah, and it's going back to even like election interference. They're kind of rolling up all their complaints against Russia into this one move.
Now, to me, the bigger complaint is sort of buried in the, sort of stale turducken of complaints that they have, which is that Russia's, whatever the apparatus is, all of the hands in the cookie jar, that's nothing new. But what is maybe a little bit new here is that those hands are now supplying criminal organizations with their tools. And criminals that are loose with state-sponsored malware, I think, is the big news. But it's sort of lost in the turducken of confusion of that article.
You really think criminals are more dangerous than alphabet agencies with this power?
I think that the criminals, it's like in Hackers, the movie. They don't really know what they have. It's like chimps with machine guns. But there's so many of them, and it's so distracting that it's easy for the intelligence services to get what they need when they also have that distraction.
Yeah, but I mean, as how much damage could they do? I would weight it worse on the state.
Nah, because of the encryption, the crypto stuff. Like once they're in, the encrypting the infrastructure covers the tracks. So like stealing the emails and all that kind of stuff. They can steal the emails, and then somebody else comes behind them, literally another criminal, just like we saw in Solar Winds. And we were moments away probably from like Solar Winds getting all their stuff cryptoed. And that's a pretty effective way to cover up your tracks.
But they would both do that.
Well, if the intelligence agency or the one that does the crypto, whatever evidence they have is going to point to them. But if it's just, North Korean criminals or whatever, it's going to point to North Korea and it's going to look different.
You're underestimating them. No chance. This one is a confusing headline. I thought, and actually we talked about this, I guess it was last week or maybe the week before, the Lego versus other kinds of blocks. Didn't realize that was such a hot topic. And this one is not Lego, it's Roblox. But the person did use Lego in their name, so I guess maybe we can forgive it. But the important thing about the story is not Legos. The important thing is no one vets anybody in the digital age, especially what we're in now, where nobody shows up in person. You can just do whatever you want online.
Politico has this article where the author is incredibly incensed that just anybody, how an online Lego gamer infiltrated the White House press corps. We can't let, plebs in there. That's insane. So I read this article with a little bit different lens. It was like, what would be wrong with an informed citizen actually asking questions and maybe even a little bit of light trolling?
Because Biden hasn't been prepped for that. You know that little sheet he's got?
Yeah.
That person wasn't on that sheet.
That person wasn't on that sheet, and nor were the list of questions or whatever. But with the way this works is that person that was impersonating other press members that are allowed into the White House press briefing will ask questions on behalf of other journalists as like a favor. And so a few of them did for that person.
And how did they get this position of power? They started a couple of Twitter accounts, took free public information that the White House releases. For example, the schedule of the president and the vice president and the press secretary. They put that out, but it's kind of obscure, I guess. So this person would just, every day, they just automated a system that went and got it and tweeted it. All the press started using that, and they just assumed this was an important account.
I think that's exciting, though, because that means the Level 1 News could potentially be asking Joe Biden questions.
Not after the first one. We'd get one shot at that.
Woo, go Level 1 News.
This is an interesting, we probably talked about this, but I don't remember it, but it kind of makes sense. I mean, I'm not going to do it because I don't trust them. Yeah. But it kind of makes sense, and you're thinking, why didn't we do this sooner? And then you read on, and you're like, wait, we did this sooner. It was just Ajit Pai destroyed it, like everything else. But Lady Rosenworcel is in charge now, bringing it back.
FCC urges Americans to run internet speed app to counter big cable's broadband data fudging. So what I want you to do is to go to your friends or your relative's house that has the most awful internet connection possible and run this app so that we've got good data about how bad it really is.
Now where we're careful not to promise anything based on that data. You're not giving them the data, and they're not promising they're going to use it, but they might. I don't know. We'll see. Probably depends on who Biden. You think he's going to let Rosenworcel keep running it?
Probably.
Yeah, I think he'll probably put somebody in there.
Depends on who's got a lot of money.
Yeah, Verizon. This one, I actually kind of thought about cutting this one. There's nothing really specific here, but we do have some statistics that are pretty impressive. And it's not surprising that as we were all moving our lives online, one thing that shot up was online crimes.
The DOJ must crack down on the scourge of online crime, online scams, whatever. It's just gotten so easy to scam. Like, it's a pretty decent hobby in some third world countries. It's like, what did you do today? I scammed some Americans out of a few $100s. No one's going to care or report that. But that's good income for wherever that is.
About 800,000 online scams were reported. That is a nearly 70% increase, but you have to remember that Q1 2020 was not normal. There wasn't a lot going on Q1 2020. Even the scammers didn't know what to do in Q1 2020.
Facebook has figured out that my mom is gullible, and so almost every day now she's like, "Are you sure that I didn't win a Samsung TV?" Yes, I am 100% sure.
You should blow her mind and just go buy a Samsung TV and be like, I don't know, this was outside.
She'll be like, I told you so. And then it'll be all over. You should do that to sow chaos if you want. But, because I'll never talk her down from that.
This is an interesting insight into some of the minds of fringe Americans. I think the saddest part here is that this would have done nothing.
Yeah.
This would not have accomplished any of if you're of this mindset, you got to think bigger than this. This is nothing.
The Record.media reports that the U.S. has arrested a suspect who wanted to blow up the AWS data center. So this Wichita Falls in Texas. The judge today formally indicted a man with a malicious attempt to destroy a building with an explosive. He he thought it would bring down 70% of the internet because, everything runs on Amazon, but just would have injured a bunch of innocent people and not accomplished anything.
So you don't understand, backups and redundancies.
Oh, you don't get that with Amazon. That's a common mistake. A lot of people. It's like, I'm on Amazon. I'm in the cloud. It'll never go down. It's like, no. Amazon's 99% uptime. That's for them. That's not you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't understand anything about what was going to happen. I mean, this would have been a big thing, but it would have been resolved relatively quickly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, compared to what the damage that's already been done to the economy, it's a drop in the bucket. We get one of these every week. Well, okay, no, not every week. Last week it was ICE. This week's it's Customs and Border Protection. But, same umbrella. And it's really disturbing that the do as you say, not as you do, because as we see headlines where they are buying our data, and as we see, these high-level people standing behind podiums saying, encryption is not good. What do you have to hide? We then learn this.
Customs and Border Protection paid $700,000 to encrypted app Wickr. Yeah, so they're using that internally to try to prevent things from leaking out. But that's weird. It makes it hard to see what they're doing.
What do they have to hide? So, yeah, that's expensive, too.
Don't worry. Wickr has a backdoor. That's the difference. I was like, do they? Do they, though? No, they don't.
So, yeah, tax dollars well spent. And this is these stories. Someone should do a supercut of these stories. It'll be difficult to do. You couldn't do it like the Dev Emperor guy did. You can't search the closed captions. But stories where the punishment and the crime are like in different universes in terms of magnitude. This number is tiny.
Yeah.
Tiny for what they did.
Charter must pay $19 million for tricking customers into switching ISPs. Charter mailed false ads to convince users Windstream was going out of business. Windstream entered bankruptcy restructuring. It's where they restructure their debt. That's not the going out of business bankruptcy. That's the we need to restructure our debt bankruptcy. There is a difference.
Did they technically lie? Maybe not.
Windstream has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which means the uncertainty.
True.
We are going to be able to provide internet and TV services you rely on for the future? I don't know, question marks. To ensure that you are left without a vital internet and TV service, you need to switch to Spectrum. And people did.
So they did pose it as a question. It was a clickbait, but it was a question. The answer is no. They knew that, but they posed the question. But the judge didn't see it that way.
I like that they also claimed it was their First Amendment right to just say that kind of thing. And it's like, I don't think that's accurate.
Well, corporations are people under U.S. law because, oh my gosh, what have we done?
And community broadband is definitely getting a little bit of groundswell support, I feel like, just because of stories like the one we just read. People are so sick of these ISPs. And the ISPs know this. So they are on a blitzkrieg to create laws that prevent that. And they're actually doing a pretty amazing job, considering how unrealistic these laws are.
Yeah.
They're getting a lot of traction, but a little bit of good news.
Washington State has voted to end restrictions on community broadband. Yes, that's right. The argument goes something like this. We have been granted a limited monopoly by law. In exchange, we are going to wire every household in the community, even though it's not profitable to do so. But the reality is that a lot of the time they don't wire every household, or there's a difference between the wealthy households and the not wealthy households in terms of the quality of the wiring. And maybe some houses, they just sort of fall off the grid altogether. It's not well maintained. But it is a very real economic thing. If you have two sets of infrastructure in a given area, it may not be economically viable for either one of them to continue to exist. So that's the basis for a lot of these types of laws.
How many times do you think the rat's nest of Cat 6 has been used as the stock image on these kinds of stories?
I think I should go take a picture of some of those little telephone pedestals that people hit with their car. They don't even fix those anymore. So it's just like a mushroom cloud of wires that are sticking up out of somebody's yard. It's like that's your phone system, everybody.
Don't go anywhere near that with your lawnmower.
They don't care.
Who uses landlines anyway?
Yeah.
Over across the pond, they are looking to crack down on AI, as everybody is. But these rules are probably going a little bit further than we've seen before.
EU is poised to set rules for AI and a whole bunch of other things because, the citizens in the EU don't want to be automatically classified by the algorithm.
This has a lot to do with facial recognition, the old, employment screening, stuff like that. They're saying, and also facial recognition in public places. You just can't do it anymore.
They're looking at the stories of the horribly biased algorithm and saying, you know what, maybe this is not a utopian technology.
So
sounds a bit Luddite, but actually it's kind of accurate.
Probably not a bad deal, but I think it's going to be difficult to prove that a lot of companies are doing this because they will keep it very secret. And then we'll get a whistleblower, and then we'll really see how serious they are about this. That's the test.
Or they'll be prosecuted under the State Secrets Act.
Yeah. Depending on where it happens, which country probably. And over in France, they are offering to cash in your clunker, but wait, it's not quite the same as our cash for clunkers. There's a huge twist. And I haven't, I've never been to France. Does it rain there?
I think it does.
Oh.
France is giving citizens $3,000 to get rid of their car and get an e-bike. How does that work in the rain?
You wear a raincoat.
Really? Is that how they deal with that?
Is it like one of those whole body ponchos?
Yeah, you could do that, or you can get like a rain suit. I mean, it's the same thing as like hiking in the rain.
How does that stay out of my bike chain?
Yeah, you can't do a poncho. You probably have to do rain pants.
That sounds like a real pain in the ass. Lay ass.
I love this image that someone probably spent a lot of time on.
I don't think they spent too much time on this, Krista.
Such a great photo. Look at all the Elon Musketeers.
They're so big.
Those e-bikes are expensive. I did briefly look into that at one point and was like, oh, that's really pricey.
Yeah, some of them, I saw some of them was like $5,000.
Yeah. It's nice because they give you like the push when you're going uphill so you don't have to pedal as hard, but phew.
I think the $5,000 ones can do a lot more than that. I think they can pretty much haul your ass around for a certain number of miles. Which is,
if you have an e-bike, comment below.
It still just doesn't, then cold, when it's cold. If it's freezing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. Well, there was a big issue in Iran. They have these nuclear centrifuges, and it's really a contentious thing. Most of the world says Iran should not have nuclear centrifuges. We cannot trust them. They are not allowed to be a nuclear state. But there's a little bit of hypocrisy because the number one voice against them is a nuclear state that won't admit they're a nuclear state. Let's keep that in mind.
Iran calls the Natanz, is that how you say that? Atomic site blackout nuclear terrorism, according to the Associated Press. So there was a power outage and a series of explosions. Maybe not in that order.
But the big question is, were the explosions traditional explosives, or was something forced to blow up, or was it just an accident? That's the big question. There are some theories about this.
The Intercept reports that Israel may have destroyed Iranian centrifuges simply by cutting the power.
So they argue that these centrifuges, as you can imagine, they move pretty fast. And there is an algorithm that sort of dampens the vibrations. So if it feels like it's getting too much vibrations, it changes the motor speed, I guess. Or probably even more complex than that. When you just cut the power, guess what? No dampening system. So they think that could have actually caused something to blow up. They also reported that no damage was actually done to the facility, but the guy that was reporting that was reporting it from a hospital bed because he fell down a 7-meter shaft.
And broke his legs.
And one of the nuclear experts was like, I've been to a lot of nuclear facilities. I've never seen a 7-meter shaft. Sounds like that might have been created by an explosion.
It's is it like that time that they blew up the Borg by putting them all to sleep? It's like, oh, it's so simple. We could just make them all sleep, but then they'll explode.
It's exactly like that.
That's where they got the idea, actually.
Yeah. Mossad was watching Next Generation. They were like, that's it. Why did we think of this before? Over in China, another government that a lot of other countries in the world are not a big fan of, they are setting up a hotline. But if you're our age, this is not the kind of hotline that you're thinking of. It's actually just an app. That's what we call those these days, I guess.
China launches a hotline to report online comments that quote-unquote distort history or deny its cultural excellence. Oh man, this led down a rabbit hole that was super dark. There was some lady. There was another story about some lady calling her sister in China to ask, because it was like, oh, my sister's complained about certain things in China before, and a policeman answered and was like, we have your family, think about that, and then just hung up. And it's like, was that real? I don't know.
That's the whole thing is so Kim Jong, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, the lines are really blurring between those two nation states, except that China's super powerful and their people aren't starving.
I mean, you could look at the Karen subreddit on Reddit and just be horrified, because like if we had that here, we may have that here. And like those people using that app, like just it's like I don't like this person, so I'm going to report him to the communist. Like, oh, I think this person's thinking communist thoughts. That's what we had in the 60s.
That's you don't know how terrified I am that I'm going to go down in a hail of bullets because of red flagged by the same token. Piss somebody off, they can do whatever they want to you. They don't have to prove anything, and it ruins your life.
Yeah.
And can I tolerate that? I got to give a big salute to the government of Sweden, because the pragmatism here is beautiful. We talk about these stories, and it's usually China or Russia, sometimes Iran, the big three, where we constantly bring up charges against these guys that the state is never going to give up. There is zero chance of extradition. They're not going to come on vacation here. Why are we wasting our time? The answer is a headline, but over in Sweden, they're like, don't waste anybody's time.
Sweden drops Russian hacking investigation due to legal complications. They peeled back the layers of stuff here and were like, oh, it wasn't a criminal organization. It was actually state-sponsored. Well, there's not much we can do about that. Click.
Oh, well.
Yeah. It is crazy that we live in this world where it's just accepted. Because what are you going to do about it, right?
Yeah.
But what are you going to do about it? Go to war? Sweden versus Russia?
Take out some centrifuges?
It'll be a short one. And NDIS, I can't remember what that stands for. It's Australian. It's a government.
It definitely has nothing to do with Novell Netware.
Definitely not. And they are creating a kind of a welfare type of proof that you need welfare type of thing. And of course, you got to put that buzzword in there.
NDIS sidesteps blockchain in government kitchen sink debt chasing app. So this article was a little impenetrable for me because I don't understand things in Australia. But it seems to be that if you've applied for state benefits or welfare or you're unemployed, they really, really want to track your spending habits. See, here, we don't. And when you're at the grocery store, the point of sale system won't let you buy certain things. And so here, what happens is people will buy laundry detergent or soda and use that as a kind of currency. You can usually get 70, 80 cents on the dollar. So somebody will buy, take their government benefits because they don't need anything. They just want cash. And they'll turn that into laundry detergent, which is on the list of things you're allowed to buy.
You can't buy that on food stamps.
What's the thing that you can buy on
soda?
food stamps?
You can do soda. It's soda.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah, laundry detergent is not. I used to work in a grocery store. That was not something we worried about. Soda was something we worried about.
Now, here's the question for you. How much would you pay, percentage-wise, for welfare fraud Diet Orange soda right now?
I would, maybe 10% above retail. Not a lot.
So they're actually going to make money off of you.
Yeah. So, but in Australia, they want to actually track your purchases. So, like, if you're buying the soda or whatever, there is some benefit that you can buy laundry detergent on because there's always somebody selling laundry detergent at the discount supermarket back home.
None of the ones that I was familiar with did. So, like, there was food stamps, which was like just a general benefits card that you could use for any food item as long as it was cold. And then there was WIC, which is women, infants, and children, and that was very specific, kind of like the Australian model they're talking about, where you could only buy produce, juice, peanut butter, and like grains, and it was very specific brands.
Well, can you imagine?
Buy like cereal, sugar cereal.
Can you imagine having those transactions tracked, and then somebody showing up at your house and being like, "Why did you buy 800 pounds of cereal? Where is it at?
Oh,
Can I see it?"
And WIC was that way too, where it was like it had to be a certain size. You could only buy like family size stuff. You couldn't buy just like a little thing of cheese. And then if it was not right, we had to take it off the order and then go get the other size, and that was exhausting.
That seems like a lot of effort to go through.
It was a lot of effort.
What else are you doing? Oh, you're talking about for the cashier.
Yeah, it was. It was annoying. They eventually converted it to like the same sort of system as food stamps, but like it was still restrictive. So that made it a little bit easier because it used to be a paper check too. And you had to go through and manually check everything.
Well, ultimately, Australia said, we want to do that, but we don't know if blockchain's the answer.
But they already got some other kind of app that's similar, and everyone seems to hate it.
Yeah.
It's a difficult question, the whole welfare fraud thing. But I think we learned, and this is one of those things that's just like completely unintuitive if you're a leader until you try it and it doesn't work. But once it doesn't work, you got to just accept it, because they tried to audit welfare fraud. Was it Florida or Georgia?
Yeah.
And it costs more to pay the auditors than they saved by just defeating the fraud.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the whole like guaranteed income thing too, is like, let's just pay everybody, because even administering welfare has a massive overhead with it.
although, have you seen the headlines where company after company are complaining publicly? They're like, don't talk to me about jobs. I have so many jobs right now, but people are coming here, they're applying and getting some kind of paperwork and using that to file for extended unemployment because of the pandemic.
Because they're probably paying garbage wages, and they're like, I don't understand why no one wants to work here.
So we're getting record applications. We're not hiring anybody, and we're understaffed.
Then raise your pay rate.
Krista, you're pulling that out of your ass. You don't know who these companies are.
The inflation is real.
Now, if we think back to the San Bernardino shooter, if you recall, that was a big showdown between Apple and the FBI. FBI wanted Apple to open up the phone. Apple said, we can't do that. We'll help you in some other ways, but we just can't do it. And then one day the FBI said, we don't need you anymore. And we never learned exactly what happened there, but now we know.
Here's how the FBI managed to get into the San Bernardino shooter's iPhone. Turns out it was bugs. It was an Australian firm, and the FBI pays them. So this is exactly the way that we've said it, from the beginning, is that eventually you'll get a way in. It's just that it's not a state-sanctioned easy button backdoor.
So they used a different exploit to get past the lock screen and modified some stuff to turn off the limiter of how many times you could try the code, and then so they could programmatically try an unlimited number of codes. Probably patched now, but what isn't patched right now?
I mean, again, it's a game of cat and mouse, and it's disingenuous for them to say, we have to have this. They just want it to be easier. Not, they can't do it.
It's also a game of cat and mouse with unlimited number of mice.
That it's just mice viscera everywhere. We're the ones that are suffering in that game.
The cat is treading, like viscera to keep its head up while it continues to kill.
That's how it's going to escape the pit. Is eventually the viscera is going to be so deep it can just climb out.
Yeah. It's like the boiling frog.
Yeah.
If it kicks hard enough. And Krista, this probably, certainly lends to your feeling that all companies and corporations are evil and just trying to destroy their employees, because in many cases they are. Amazon.
We're going to learn more about that in the business section.
Yeah.
And this one, you might think, oh man, I really feel bad for those Amazon drivers because the phone is monitoring everything that they do. But don't forget that your phone is also doing that. There just might not be anybody looking at it yet.
School custodian refuses to download phone app that monitors location and says it got her fired. It was mentioned in her termination letter. They investigated, and the person said, well, that wasn't the only reason. But if it's her own personal phone, they didn't give her a phone to run the app, I think this is not going to end well for them in an unemployment investigation, at least if it's in the U.S.
Now, I don't know what all this app tracks. I doubt that it just tracks what they described.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
no.
you say there's probably a lot more than
Yes.
that? But the
Yeah.
big thing that they mention here is it's a geofence. So she works at a school, and she's like one of the pandemic cleaners, one of the extra people that they brought in. And so the geofence records when she enters the fence and when she exits the fence, because she's not allowed to leave during the day. So it's kind of like punching in and punching out, except you don't physically do anything. Just make sure that you stay where you are.
Seems like they could do that with like a cheap paper
Yeah, know how to
card.
put something on her phone, which is her personal property.
Or, I mean, is that even legal if we did it that way? I think the phone reduces how invasive it seems. Because if this was a bracelet or an anklet,
Yeah.
She mentions that in
Yeah.
the article. She's like, I don't need the thing. Those apps are also kind of buggy. So like doing the geofencing thing, like just experimenting with that, it's not a flawless technology.
a phone GPS is not super accurate at any given time. So what if you're cleaning like the old boiler that's underground and happens to be 10 feet beyond the property line and nobody knows that?
I don't even think it's that accurate. I mean, I've seen those geofences not like that software not report in for days, but like in the database online, it's like, no, it totally reported in. And it was like, this is physically impossible for it to have traveled this distance in this amount of time. And they're just like, meh,
It's alien technology, clearly.
clearly.
If I were to say to you, get ready to scrape 500 million phone numbers. And you might say, oh, I already did that last week. And I'd say, no, not that one, the other one. And they're like, no, I got LinkedIn and Facebook last week. Don't worry, I've got them all. No.
There's the third one.
There's a new one.
There's another Facebook phone number database online. Analysis by Motherboard and a security researcher indicate the database is separate from the recently reported cache of 500 million accounts. Oh, no. Whoops.
So you can go to a Facebook page that has likes, and you can contact this Telegram account. You can send them the URL, and they will show you the phone number of every person who has liked that Facebook page. Now,
It's a feature. That's not a bug.
if that page has less than 100 likes, they'll give it to you for free. More than 100, you have to pay, of course.
What an amazing business model.
And Vice tried it, called the people, and got some calls back, and they were like, yeah, that is me. And they double checked, and those people were not in the last week.
I think Ireland is going to own Facebook after that GDPR fine.
That's pretty insane, isn't it? It's got to violate something. Oh, Facebook. Now this one is it's crazy how many of these we see. It's getting worse and worse, and it is, these days when you hack something, what you want to do, if you want to get real gains from hacking, you hack something really low level that people are going to include in their software without even thinking about it. And it doesn't get
Yeah.
much lower than this. Everybody needs this.
Name wreck vulnerabilities impact millions of smart and industrial devices. So this is a bug in DNS. These security researchers were looking at just basic networking plumbing. This would be like finding a bug in plumbing. Like if you say a certain phrase to any toilet on planet Earth, it explodes. And in a not very super easy to fix way. Well, that's what they found. So it's a bug in DNS and how DNS works. And because this is such low level stuff, it's going to be a long time before this is fixed. This is a little bit like asbestos or leaded pipes. There's a lot of buildings out there that still have asbestos or leaded pipes, and maybe you shouldn't be breathing in those buildings or drinking the water. It's kind of like that. Those things aren't going anywhere.
So you should not be drinking the data that's coming from a ton of Internet of Things devices. But you say it's going to take a long time to fix. Let's be realistic. This is not something that you just like, oh, just go patch the device. The creator of the device has to fix it, and then they have to release the patch because it's their specific device. And Hee-Sung is never going to do that.
That is an impossible amount of work. That is his entire lifetime of work 3 times over because he's got to remember what he did 12 years ago.
Now, let's be honest. He's never updated any of his Internet of Things ever for any reason.
Yeah, so we're just going to have to throw all this stuff out and get new stuff. Isn't it exciting?
And a similar, really terrifying bug. Now, I guess this does affect only a certain subset of gamers, but this is a fairly popular game, and I imagine that this feature is used quite a bit.
Counter-Strike bug allows hackers to take over a PC with a Steam invite. Valve knew about this for a year and sat on it, and finally the security researchers got fed up, I guess, and were like, we got to release this.
So you have to invite somebody to the game, and they have to click it. So if you get an invite from somebody you don't know, obviously, don't click it.
But I don't click anything ever anyway.
They have a proof of concept here. I don't think anybody's ever actually seen this in the wild, but they did prove it can happen.
We can run calculator.
And I think it affects all Source games, right?
It does.
That Half-Life 2 deathmatch community, they're at risk.
Oh.
And another big exploit, this one affects the browsers, every browser that runs Chromium.
Security researcher drops Chrome and Edge exploit on Twitter. So the Google Chrome team just barely got this fixed, but it's not made it into Chrome, the public builds, and it's not made it into Edge, which also uses the same engine, and it hasn't made it into any other browser that uses the Chromium engine. So, great.
So watch out for that. Be careful. There are so many examples of, if you go back a year, everybody in power was saying, are you stupid? We would never do that. We would never misuse this technology for that purpose. And it's simply a conspiracy theory to say so. And then one after the other, like many conspiracy theories, here.
The NHS 19 app thing, pandemic, whatever, has been blocked for breaching Apple and Google's rules. So this app is like, we don't need this level of permission. Okay, that sounds good. But now that they're actually checking for that, oh no, you're using this and you said that you didn't need it. You're lying. So it's been blocked.
So this is location data. They're trying to figure out, who's going to businesses and stuff like that. Now that things are opening back up a little bit, but they promised they would never do this. And of course, Apple and Google have rules in place to stop this kind of thing.
I can't help but laugh because it's funny.
One thing that could get me to think about joining the walled garden is if they didn't let any kind of politicians in there.
A checkbox? You should have a checkbox for that. It's like, I don't want to see anything from...
Yeah, or no software from... No, I know checkbox. They have to explicitly exclude it at all times. No government content.
We could build that community online.
Who's going to be the payment processor? And Zoom has their own issues. Remember Zoom, they started out with strong, then they got really embarrassed by some security issues, and then they fixed them. They were feeling good again.
And then they were sending everything to China.
But here we are with some more.
Critical Zoom vulnerability triggers remote code execution without user input. Researchers who discovered the bug have earned themselves $200,000. This is Pwn to Own by the Zero Day Initiative. It's one of those security things. It's nice. You find an exploit like that, which is probably months and months of work. So, $200,000 is kind of a bargain.
And we have some other winners here. Lots of money flying around. Microsoft Teams got one. Ubuntu Desktop.
Oh, Exchange netted $200,000 as well. We know all about that one. There's more Exchange patches this week, too.
So, good work if you can win it. Although I imagine that's kind of like mining Bitcoin. A lot of people trying to win that prize.
It's a lot like those contests that Krista doesn't like, where it's like design our logo and win $200,000, and it's like, yeah, but 7,000 people are going to be paid zero.
Yeah, and also usually it's like, we'll pay you like $100, which is not even worth the time that it would take to develop a good logo.
Some of these exploits, even paying them $200,000, they might have been working on that for years.
Yeah, but overall, it's good for the world. Probably fixes our crap.
Wow, that'll pay your rent, won't it? Well, in this case, it might. But
200 grand will pay my rent.
200 would pay your rent, but.
And our final story today is it's hilarious because nothing bad happened. But it wouldn't have been hilarious if there had been a tragic airplane accident.
Yeah.
It came pretty close to, and this was just a really stupid software mistake.
TUI plane in serious incident after every miss on board was assigned a child's weight. So this is from Birmingham to Majorca? I don't know. They took off with less thrust than they needed because the pilot thought it was 1,200 kilograms lighter because every female was assigned a child's weight.
So apparently miss versus misses. But that doesn't work with children, right? I mean, children doesn't have to be... I mean, they can't be a missus, I guess. But a grown miss is not a child.
Yeah.
Make any sense? I think it's a language barrier type of thing.
It is neat that the software depends on that for a whole bunch, but the pilot said that, he just gave it more on the throttle than the software wanted to, and it was fine.
Also, what about just a huge child? We have those. Yeah. Just a massive kid.
You've seen the Honey Boo Boo show.
Oh. I wonder what happened. Let's look that up real quick. Before we go, this is the last story. What happened to her?
Oh, man. She's probably a teenager by now, right?
Oh, she has an Instagram. Oh. It doesn't look like she's doing great.
Who could have predicted it? You think any of that money's left?
April 8th, 2021, there's an article. Watch Honey Boo Boo confront Mama June in emotional reunion 1 year in the making. So
How old
she's
is
still doing reality TV.
How old is she?
It doesn't mention in this
Is her
article.
window still the correct size in OBS?
She's definitely like an older teenager now, looks like.
I shouldn't have done that.
I don't know. Weird. What a weird little like microcosm of American entertainment that was a thing.
How long ago was that?
Oh, so she's like 15.
Wow.
Weird.
That's
She was
gotta
pretty
be-
young when that show filmed. I guess it's still on, but
Her school life has to be just crazy, right?
I would think, yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well,
What we got tomorrow?
business and social.
Hey.
We can talk more about Amazon and the horrible things they're doing to workers. Although I don't remember if you put that in the robot section or the business section.
Krista, give us a child abuse through overfeeding goodbye.
Oh, how does she do it in the show? Bye. Hello, everybody. Today is April 21st, 2021, and today we're doing business and social.
We're going to start with some real bad news. Real bad.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be unexpected. It's just that last number in this headline is really disappointing.
Intel and Nvidia and TSMC execs agree the chip shortage could last into 2023. Companies are reeling from natural disasters and massive demand from OEMs and customers. Our supply chain is really, really knackered, y'all.
Nvidia, I
Just
think...
in time didn't work out.
No. Turns out that just in time is now 6 months from now or more. Nvidia was the most optimistic, I think. But even they were just like, no. Don't get excited about this. We have not yet begun to have a shortage. It's going to be terrible.
Still waiting on that washer and dryer.
Oh, wow. That's got to be annoying.
It is annoying. We're going to have to go to the laundromat this weekend.
The basement also is open.
Oh, yeah. We should maybe do that too. The industrial washer and dryers at the laundromat,
They're nice.
yeah, it's insane how quick that was. We
Yeah,
were
that
like,
makes
wow.
sense.
Do they
was
still
like
have the
maybe
rug
an hour.
washer?
Huh?
Do they still have the rug washer?
Not at the one that we went to.
How close is that to you? Because you're kind of not close to...
It's like a 15-minute drive. I mean, it's fine. And like I said, it was faster than what we expected the first time we went over there, so.
What do you do while you wait?
Last time I called my mom.
Oh, that's a good
And
use
just-
of that.
Yeah. And then my husband played the new Crash Bandicoot game on his phone.
Of course.
Yeah.
What a terrible choice for a phone game.
It wasn't bad. It's kind of like Temple Run.
Well, the question on everybody's mind is, who can we blame for this chip shortage? Ourselves? No. Never. It's never our fault. It's always somebody else's fault, no matter who you ask.
Huawei blames the U.S. for the global chip supply crunch. It's like, I can't sell to China. China's stockpiling. This article seems to say that there are certain companies that are stockpiling, but I think that's kind of BS.
But I think he sort of said Huawei was doing that.
Yeah,
because they knew they needed a 2 to 3 month supply no matter what. So they just stopped shipping until they hit that point.
I think initially that was true, but then that was like a year ago.
This story is just yet another Spider-Man meme of just pointing at everyone else.
It's like traffic.
Yeah.
For those 3 months, nothing moved.
Yeah.
So it takes time to unwind all that. And what are we going to do about it? You got to do something, because you've learned a critical problem that every country has. I mean, this is a national security issue, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a serious thing. So what are we going to do? Maybe finally the right thing to fix it.
Intel CEO calls for moonshot to boost U.S. role in chip making. Now, you might recall in the news from a couple of weeks ago, Intel got a new CEO. One of the big things is they're opening up their foundries. That means that people other than Intel are going to be able to fabricate stuff at Intel. And Intel's manufacturing capacity is enormous. So this could be completely transformational. The problem is going to be that nobody has designed things for Intel's foundries. And it's going to take us at least a year, I think probably like 18 to 24 months, to ramp up the designs that companies need in a way that can be manufactured on Intel stuff. It's not like they can copy paste. You know, the automotive industry was using machines from the 80s still, and it's not like they can copy paste the designs from the 1980s machines into Intel's machines and be off to the races. It doesn't work like that.
So he's saying, give us this beautiful Biden money. We want so much of it.
Yeah.
And we're going to start building foundries right here in the U.S.
Almost all of this is a 100% a PR move. Eventually, it'll be good, but it's not going to be immediate.
Maybe it'll be good eventually. Maybe it won't, because like you say, that's a many-year wind-up process.
Yeah.
Are they going to go x86?
No.
Because more and more, it seems like that is not the way to go. And in fact, they will, by the time they get those foundries up, there will be another player.
Player 3 is entering the game.
In the desktop CPU game.
So Nvidia had their GDC, which is awesome. There was a million things that came out of GDC, but Nvidia demoed technology that was using ARM CPUs for the server part of it. So it was Nvidia GPUs plus ARM, and it was really good. And it was so good they, in fact, actually maybe probably overstated their numbers a little bit. And then they went back and were like, oh, no, that's Int 8. We didn't mean that to be like floating point 32. That was Int 8 operations. But it's still really fast. It's still an incredible accomplishment. And the software stack here is the news that everybody's missing. The software, like NVIDIA's software, to be able to do this, to not drive a programmer insane, is a really big deal.
Intel, I mean, they've got ARM stuff. They did some ARM stuff, but it was bad.
Yeah.
So if NVIDIA does a really good job, and Apple has already done a really good job.
Listen, for as much as they're charging for power transistors at this point, Intel could sell power transistors on their foundry and make money.
And we're talking about not. Can they do that 5 years from now? That's when the foundry's going to. Now, last week we talked about Jeff Bezos, and a lot of people were shocked to hear him say that he welcomed higher corporate tax rate, which is weird because he has the giant corporation that can't benefit from that. But reading between the lines, a cynical look at it says, no, he just wants to be at the table.
Yeah.
Because that is a powerful position, and he can get himself there by saying this. And all the other tech companies looked at that, and they were like, why didn't we think of that?
Tech industry group funded by Amazon, Facebook, and Google says it supports a corporate tax hike. What this is exactly what everybody that was really looking at it is saying, which is, with this, small business is not going to be as much of a thing, because only Facebook and Google and other companies like that have hyperscaled their stuff could compete in that kind of a taxation landscape.
You know what I'm long? Pee bottles. Because if he gets in bed with the Biden administration with this and makes a bunch of sweetheart deals, you know the union stuff's going to be in there.
I was trying to think of a way to explain this really well, and the best thing I could come up with is that, like, Amazon has figured out a way that you don't have to sleep. And so, like, come to Amazon and you have to take this thing that, you know, has horrible side effects, but you no longer have to sleep, and you're that much more productive. It's like that, but for taxation.
And then they start hiding the murders. But eventually it gets out.
It's not murder so much as your heart explodes catastrophically.
No, I'm thinking that, you know,
Stress.
you mentally break after so long without, because that's what they do at Abu Ghraib and what's the one in the terrorist thing?
Oh, Blackwater?
They play the prison.
Oh.
They play the chat. I don't know. They play. Actually, Metallica got angry because they used Metallica to keep them up. And after so many hours, you don't know where you are.
Yeah.
And that's when the Amazon workers start killing. Another movie that writes itself. Dell is, They bought
VMware and EMC a while back.
But more importantly, it's, their business is not as healthy as a lot of the other big tech companies. Dell does not have what's hot right now. And they kind of want to get those numbers up. And a good way to do that is to chip pieces off the iceberg that might not be performing the way that you want.
Dell announces a long-awaited spinoff of VMware. So Dell says that, investors are uncertain about the capital structure here because VMware does one thing and Dell does another, and we've got a special relationship, but investors don't understand that, so we're splitting it off. I thought it was really telling that the split off means that Dell is going to collect about $9 billion in revenue, and VMware is going to end up with about $8 billion in debt.
And that gets distributed as a dividend. Guess who owns 60% of the stock? The CEO.
It's amazing.
Unrelated, the image at the top of the article, does it look like his face is too small for the size of the facial area? Did they Photoshop him just slightly?
You think it's a deep fake?
I don't think it's a deep fake. It's just like, I don't know why his face looks like it's too tiny for the space allotted.
It is sort of unusual that the distance from your chin to your forehead is much less than the distance from your chin to your shoulder.
Those glasses are also like splayed
Framing.
out.
Yeah.
Like they're struggling.
It might just be like a bad angle, but it looks like it was Photoshopped. It's strange.
I bet he wasn't ready for that critique
Well,
when he did that presentation.
listen, that's not his fault. That's the photographer, but weird image.
I still think VMware is a really innovative product, and they've got a lot of miles, but they've also got a lot of transformation they need to do because of the market is different now than it was 10 years ago.
Oh, so much more competition.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot you can get for free that you still have to pay for on VMware that's free literally everywhere else.
Krista, admit right now, do you or do you not still password share your Netflix account?
I definitely do not pay for my own Netflix.
Wow. Well, okay. You are a Netflix customer, though. I mean, well, technically you're not. You're a consumer.
No, not anymore.
You're a
I'm a
Netflix consumer.
Yeah.
Would you say that they have the best original content?
No.
Well, then you are in the minority.
39% of Americans say Netflix has the best original content of all streaming services. So I expected the headline to be like, 60% of Americans say that Disney Plus has the best original content. But no, it's Netflix, and then the next biggest percentage is tiny.
Single digits.
Yeah.
And it's not Disney Plus.
No.
It
Well,
was,
Disney Plus was like 12%.
It was Amazon at 12, and then Disney
Disney's
Plus
like
at
6 or
6 and 7. HBO Max.
So.
What original? I guess there's Bridgerton. Netflix came out with that. What other shows have they done recently?
Oh, Netflix has a ton of original stuff. They got original movies too.
But they tend to get rid of them after a season, so I couldn't think of anything long lasting that they've done.
I really like Altered Carbon, but only 2 seasons. They made some mistakes with their adaptation of it. It could have been better.
What about Cuties?
No.
They didn't make that. They
They were just a distributor, yeah.
But I think they do count that as original content, don't they? Because you
Yeah.
don't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
The big Wall Street event this week was Coinbase. It wasn't an IPO. They did not issue shares. They just opened up the market for what was already out there, and it went kind of moderately okay, I guess.
Coinbase opens at $102 billion valuation on the first day of public trading. Woo! Meanwhile, Doge to the moon.
I saw that, and I was like, it was what, 8 cents or 6 cents?
There's a wallet somewhere that has like 2,000 Doge in it.
But it's not
what's
that
it
much.
at now?
No,
10 cents or 12 or 13 maybe.
$1.
It went to $1?
It's at like 60, 80 cents.
Oh, it says right now 36 cents.
Okay.
So that happened after,
Yeah.
because the big headline was 10 cents.
Yeah.
Wow. It's tempting. It's such a stupid thing, though. Well, when it comes to cryptocurrency, we've seen headline after headline with all the big banks and financial institutions capitulating. They want to be a part of it now because there's billions of dollars to be made. Except one. I guess you got to give them credit, right? They're holding out.
HSBC bans customers from buying Bitcoin backer MicroStrategy shares. It's just too volatile. It's not. This is probably one of the last Reuters articles we're going to enjoy without the paywall too.
Oh yeah, the Reuters. I think we have like 3 weeks left before they do it. But my question is, so the argument here is that the risk is too high because this company bought how many Bitcoins? It was a crazy, like 90,000 Bitcoins or something. No, that's too high. But a lot of Bitcoins.
91,000.
91,000. Oh, wow. That's crazy. And so they're saying that, no, that's too risky because what if Bitcoin were to go to zero? That's a non-trivial possibility. Then our customers are going to get crushed. What about Tesla?
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have that many Bitcoins, but that was what percentage of the company is now invested in Bitcoin?
Well, they've said if you're going to buy the Tesla with Bitcoin, they're not going to convert it to fiat immediately.
But the big amount that he bought dwarfs the income.
I thought it was only 1.5 billion worth.
Only.
Yeah.
This is 5 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's risky. But at the same time, since when is this market not about risk? I bet they're trading penny stocks that are way more risky.
Did you put the Delhi story in Nonsense?
Another one of those accidental.
Yeah.
No, I didn't put that in there.
Because that's what's happening. Like that's just all, the Delhi story basically sums up the entire market of 2020 and 2021. It's $100 million Delhi in New Jersey.
But it's just one of those mistaken identity stock things, right?
Either that or money laundering. No one's really sure.
Well, another thing that could easily be money laundering. A lot of people are saying that NFTs are all money laundering.
Could be.
And that, I mean,
Yeah.
why else would you buy one, right? But yeah, the Doge, I don't know. I'm feeling that FOMO. Are you feeling it?
A little bit, yeah. Dogecoin surges more than 85% in the last 24 hours. This headline is out of date. It surged more than 120% in the last 24 hours.
If it's at 30, it's more than that, right?
It's 168%. But, it's fluctuating. It's like the average.
But you're counting day over day.
Yeah.
If you count from where they're counting, way more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just checked it and it was 36 cents.
Yeah, that's you got to catch it on the way up, though. I don't know. You think it's still going up?
No, it's on its way back down because it peaked at like 60-some cents.
Yeah, but if you think back to Bitcoin, I mean, it used to just like go up and down constantly, but then it would move up meaningfully after that. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of want to get some more Bitcoin. Kind of hope it goes back down to 50 so I can grab a few more.
Back down to 50. That's just crazy to think about. It's like, remember when it was like $100 a coin?
And here's a crazy number comparison, right? Like, think about the numbers that we just talked about in terms of fake money. 5.5 billion. And then look at this number.
Yeah.
It's insane.
The global PC market swells by 55% in Q1 2021 to 82.7 million. So
They didn't even break a billion.
So what you're telling me is video cards are worth more in their ability to produce cryptocurrency than the effort that it took to hit the sand with lightning and make it into something useful.
Wouldn't the current market conditions not support that theory?
At this point, the 3090 that I bought has paid for itself.
So, obviously people buying more computers because they're stuck at home, and you have to do it maybe for work or whatever, or you just bored
School. Yeah.
because you're stuck at home. So everybody's buying them. And you know what? That doesn't help with the chip shortage.
No. Sure doesn't.
Please stop. And we're talking about the Nvidia, the big announcement about ARM, and certainly the Apple ARM, the M1, has been transformative. Everybody is shocked at what it can do. And Intel and Windows, they're sitting over there and they're like, maybe we can compete with this. The emulation is bad. That's what it is. The emulation is bad, and you shouldn't buy it. And Apple says
Parallels 16.5 can virtualize ARM Windows natively on M1 Macs with up to 30% faster performance. Now the trick is you got to have the Preview Insider version of Windows for ARM. So this is not Windows x86 on ARM. This is Windows ARM on ARM.
But that is only a preview because they haven't released it yet. They will.
Now remember the Surface RT, Microsoft's native ARM thing? That was almost amazing, except for Microsoft wanted to produce the cheapest piece of crap Windows thing that they possibly could. They didn't actually want a good laptop experience. So the processor in that thing was anemic and terrible. And they still haven't learned their lesson with the ARM Surfaces.
I don't know if I failed at the sort here or if I failed to include a very important story. But the big union story was Amazon.
Yes.
But it wasn't the only union story.
Tech workers at the New York Times have formed a union. The New York Times has not acknowledged that union yet, however. But yeah, I mean, I can imagine the newspaper is getting squeezed a little bit, that the tech workers are feeling it. And they formed a union.
Well, they have the Writers Guild type of deal. But that only affects the print writers, not even the online writers.
That's scary.
Which is ridiculous, right? Because their business model has to be mostly online at this point.
One would think. The Amazon thing was voted down, so not really a lot to that story other than...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that story is lurking somewhere in this. I've missorted it.
It's fine.
And perhaps the chip shortage is the reason that we are all of a sudden getting these PC peripherals that are not very exciting. They're really pared down, basic utilitarian stuff. There is not a single piece of RGB on this.
Disappointing.
I have a slightly different take on this, but that's okay.
Well, you're saying it's not basic?
Microsoft announces new webcam and USB-C speaker for the work-from-home era. So these devices would not need to exist if manufacturers made the speaker and camera in laptops as good as it is in phones. Like the camera, there is no excuse in this day and age for, new laptops and things like that having garbage to your cameras.
But that is a garbage to your camera. It's 1080.
That is way better than most laptop cameras.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get your little speaker in your phone. I think it's what, $60.
Yeah, and the speaker doesn't hear the whine of your laptop struggling to encode video.
So you can telecommute if you didn't already have one of those. And another release from Microsoft. I am just not excited about these Surface laptops.
Nope.
I like the pure tablet experience, but I do think they did a decent job with that. However, they are taking a new step that I'm sure you'll be excited about.
Woo!
And it's been big for the battery life.
Microsoft Surface 4 goes big on battery. We go hands-on. So they've got new Intel and AMD models, extra long processor life. In case you're wondering about that webcam, no, it's still garbage tier.
And the AMD processors really do help with the power consumption.
Turns out AMD did something right. It's amazing.
More bad news for Intel.
Honestly, that's sort of the biggest thing is like AMD may be responsible for single-handedly saving x86 on the desktop because the ARM processors that Apple has are really nice.
Now this story, if you're someone at Google and you read this, and especially this bullet list down here, how quickly do you fire whoever's in charge of your media?
I would have think this would have been done years ago, because this is exactly the kind of thing that I'm always complaining about.
I mean, this is almost as bad as AT&T.
Yeah.
Just shy of the stupidity of AT&T's AT&T Now plus whatever they called it. They had 6 different things.
Yeah.
And they were all the same thing, except depending on what kind of stuff you had to do it differently. It's the worst idea ever. And taking the thing that you're comfortable with and destroying it and replacing it with something you don't like. Boy, Google's done that a lot, haven't they?
They really have. Google is removing its Play Movies and TV app from every Roku and most smart TVs. It's been replaced with YouTube. Remember when people were like, I'm confused by having movies in YouTube. Let's move it to a separate app. And now they're like, oh, let's move it back.
Now, you have to switch to YouTube, maybe, but maybe not. See, here's the thing. What kind of device are you using? Because there are literally 7 different options here.
On Android phones, you use the Google TV app. On iPhones and iPads, you use the Google Play Movies and TV app or the YouTube app. On Roku devices, you need to use the YouTube app. On Samsung, LG, Vizio, and Roku smart TVs, that's also the YouTube app. But if you're on Chromecast, that's going to be the Google TV app. Now, on the web, you're going to use Google Play and Movie TV's website. But on Android TV, that's also going to be the Google Play and Movies TV app, not YouTube.
Did they put the Google Analytics team on this? Because this feels like Google Analytics, where it's just insane, hard to navigate. Why? Why is it like this?
And not only hard to navigate, but the thing that was working before is just gone now.
You know, I have a folder on my home network server, and it's full of movies. And when I feel like watching an old episode of Star Trek, you know what I do? I double-click on Star Trek. I double-click on Season 2. I double-click on whatever episode it is that I want to watch. And I'm done. And that's it. And it hasn't changed in like 15 years. I like it.
But what if you want to stream that to your Fire Stick?
Well, first of all, I would never have a Fire Stick. And second of all, I can stream it by VPNing into my network and double-clicking the file.
Apple has, obviously their thing that all these companies want to happen is Internet of Things. I want a screen and a speaker in your house. I want to monitor you, and I want you to depend on that for all things. And they keep working toward that goal by incorporating it into more and more stuff that it shouldn't be incorporated into.
Apple is working on a TV, a speaker combination thingy, so that they can do stuff.
So they can monitor your viewing habits more.
And then advertise to you.
And listen to your house.
So they know if you're opening up Star Trek The Next Generation on your network instead of the Apple Store.
I seem to remember that Apple was saying, we don't think advertising should happen this way and blah, blah, blah. And turns out that wasn't exactly honest.
Shocking. Really? Krista, was that a dish?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Not the metal bowl, Krista.
No, it was just, he just put it down.
Tesla might be feeling just a touch of that competition that is inevitably coming from all the different electric car makers, because they've had time now to get their stuff out there. People are driving them. People like the Mustangs. And maybe they're doing some internal repricing because of that.
Tesla is drastically increasing the price of the solar roof. Turns out it's a kind of a popular product. It doesn't look like a solar roof, and yet it is.
My understanding from like browsing some solar forums and stuff is that they are always dramatically underpriced compared to other companies, but their installation services are garbage. So maybe they're raising the prices to be more competitive and maybe hire better contractors. But
well, now this is the price for the individual solar cells, they claim. People, because obviously this is a very expensive thing. I mean, this could cost you probably a minimum of like 30 to 50 grand, right?
That's crazy.
And if a big house, forget it. So people will go to the website and sort of spec out their house, and they look at that number and they're like, maybe not right now. And they keep going back and they think about it, and all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, was this not 30,000 less yesterday?
You know, if you don't mind the unsightly solar panels, those are only like 15 grand.
yeah.
That would only take like 7 years to pay off.
But you don't get a power wall.
You could get a power wall. It'd just be a separate charge.
And this story just refuses to go away, and I'm fascinated with it. I love it. It's such high drama, but it's high drama with people who really don't deal with drama well.
No.
Really don't. And there was an apology, which I guess it wasn't really an apology. I mean, reading it, I thought to myself, it doesn't seem like an apology to me. There's a little bit of kind of like, I'm sorry you don't like who I am.
I read it as, I'm sorry, I'm damaged goods.
But there was no personal changes based on that realization. It's like, I'm damaged goods. Sorry. Deal with it.
Yeah.
That's basically what was said.
The Free Software Foundation doubles down on restoring RMS after his non-apology. So this is still the news. This is ZDNet's take on it.
And Stephen J. Von Nichols really lets his opinion bleed into this one.
Is anybody still alive that worked on the V2 rockets? Was anybody like super upset that they had Von Braun working on the rockets, which I think is arguably a much worse situation?
How could there not be internal NASA guys who are furious about that? Krista.
Certainly there's somebody that was upset that Von Braun was allowed to work on those.
So yeah, it still remains a hugely contentious thing. And they also brought up, they were like, okay, you've apologized for the one thing, but what about things 2 through 86? Can we cover those? I think he's saying, no, leave me alone.
At some point, you gotta look at this as like, if our mission is to improve the world through software, this is just a distraction.
But they also point out that open source has kind of eclipsed his efforts because it's so much more effective.
Yeah.
So do we need this?
Because it's open.
Well, yeah.
Certainly makes for great headlines, doesn't it? Epic Games continues to throw money at their battle with Apple and Steam. And I like to collect my games every week.
I think this is ultimately going to hurt them in their Apple case, though.
Maybe. They certainly have the war chest. I mean, they have a lot of... is Fortnite still as popular as it was?
I don't think it's anywhere near as popular as it was, but it's still just printing money.
That's crazy. So they say, when people sort of question, they say, hey, you're wasting all this money. The CEO of Epic says, no. We're investing that money.
Epic reportedly set to lose at least $330 million in efforts to compete with Steam. One of the case studies in this article was talking about how if publishers agreed to exclusivity on the Epic Game Store, they would guarantee certain minimums. So some game, Control, I think got a $10 million bump or a bonus or how you want to classify that in order to be exclusive on the Epic Games platform for a year. So you get a bunch of transactions like that, $330 million loss, it makes sense. But from a business standpoint, if you're in an argument with Apple about app stores and exclusivity and monopoly and stuff like that, do you really want to have this kind of thing? Because the judge is like, well, you're figuring that you're going to make back your $330 million and then some once you've established a dominant position in the market. So aren't you arguing against that with your situation here with Apple?
And what's more walled than paying people not to leave the garden?
Yeah.
Krista, look at the sub-headline here. The S's in fantastic investment. What's going on there?
Oh, hang on. I closed that tab already because we were getting ready to change it. Where did it go? Undo close tab.
Is that like if you're speaking with a lisp or something?
Does Tim Sweeney have a lisp? Because Considers doesn't have it.
Wait, what are you looking at here?
CEO Tim Sweeney considers it a fantastic investment. Look at fantastic investment.
I'm imagining it like the guy says Transylvania in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
There's a little accent over the S's in front of the T's.
Maybe it's just our garbage tier Linux community.
Maybe it's a font
Yeah, I
render
would say
thing?
the font looks fine to me.
All right.
It is a serif font, so it's got like the little swoosh on the end of the S, but like it looks fine.
Well, in Linux, it's rendering funny.
But see this other S. Look, chat. That S is fine. That S has a hat.
It could be trying to like render a ligature, but I would think that would work for mine.
Maybe they copy pasted from his quote in another document.
Oh yeah, maybe.
From now on, this will be referred to as the Tim Curry ligatures. Sweeney. Curry. Because Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, I don't know that. I never understood why that was popular.
It's got some catchy dances.
Well, you know what? I'm not attracted to catchy dances, I guess.
gonna hate
Microsoft. This was another bad sort because we had the Microsoft stories.
Oh yeah.
Microsoft acquired a big name. This is another one of those things like, look at this number.
Yeah.
And look at the total PC shipments.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Microsoft is acquiring Nuance Communications for $19.7 billion. What does Nuance do? Medical transcription, apparently, is why Microsoft was interested in them. They do natural language processing, and they're really good with medical jargon, apparently.
Is that just for the doctors making notes, or do you think they're like transcribing the entire interaction with the patient?
I mean,
Just the notes.
I mean, I'm already of the opinion that we're in insane territory when I can buy a server for 50 grand that requires a 500 grand license for SQL server. Like, what? How does that even make sense? What universe does that make sense?
Also, all of sorry.
Well, no, I mean go ahead.
All of Nuance's products they're all labeled like Dragon Ambient Experience, Dragon Medical One. Are dragons good at medicine? Why did they name them that?
Dragon had the naturally speaking.
Yeah,
They're the OG text recognition.
was that the Ray Kurzweil's brainchild originally?
I don't know. I mean, he definitely worked in music and audio stuff.
Dragon Dictate.
Yeah.
Why dragons?
That was just the name of their thing that they came up with. Which, God, when did that come out? That was 90s?
Yeah, the first versions of it were in the 90s. They had an amazing API. I had a 486, a wall-mounted 486 that did reasonably okay voice recognition. It was like an Alexa personal assistant before any of that was invented.
Yeah, I remember thinking that stuff was amazing, even in those days. And it's just where we've come now is really, really, really makes you worry. And you know who else should be worried? Google. Because there was some accidental discovery.
This is amazing.
In one of their... does that person... Do you think was it a lawyer or was it like an intern?
I think there was a lawyer. I think it was a lawyer that didn't understand the subtle on-the-nose humor of Project Bernanke for what it does.
And will that lawyer ever work again?
No.
In the legal profession.
So you don't understand. We called it this as an ironic signal so that, you would know what it does.
So unredacted thing hit the court records. People freaked out and they're like, and then they redacted it and put it back. But you can't put the genie back in the bottle, can you?
No. Google's Project Bernanke gives the Titan an unfair ad buying edge, lawsuit claims. So Google and Facebook entered into a pact, and there were some sort of, it was a contract really, and there were some stipulations here. Like Facebook would buy a certain amount of ads, and Google would try to help Facebook make sure that they were the most competitive, but ultimately Facebook had to commit to winning at least 10% of the ad auctions that they participated in. And so there's apparently Project Bernanke, which would kind of give Facebook a little bit of an edge on the market, maybe. Now Google says that's not actually how that works, but it does seem like it was named for the chairman of the Federal Reserve. The joke being, I think, that the Federal Reserve is Google with its ad inventory, and Project Bernanke being the train conductor that's sort of signaling to Facebook when to, move money.
And Bernanke did hand out a lot of money
to
U.S. corporations. People were not happy with him.
So Google said they're going to defend themselves in court. We'll be happy to discuss it. I can't wait to see how that plays out.
Also, it's not a tech story, but the Indianapolis FedEx, I think that's where Nubbin works.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hope Nubbin's okay.
What if it was Nubbin?
Oh, yeah, I saw that trending right before we started.
Do we really want to announce that on the
yet.
news, though? I mean, that's...
By the time they watch this, there'll be more details emerging, I imagine.
Oh, he's been very vocal about his
his
home in the Twitch chat. I mean, this is a bigger audience, I guess, but they're not going to track down Nubbin.
Don't take that as a challenge.
Yeah, don't tempt 4chan.
That's not his name.
It might as well be.
Oh, this is a somewhat unique handle.
Yeah.
This Jalopnik. Now, Jalopnik, I suppose they might be a little bit internal combustion
biased. Yeah.
Biased, you think so?
Yeah, a little bit.
Because Electrek is basically the PR arm of Tesla. So maybe Jalopnik is the opposite. Maybe this is like Fox and CNN. But oh boy, did they let the tunnel have it.
Move over, Keno. Elon Musk's dumb Tesla tunnel is now the lamest thing in Vegas. So
Ouch.
it doesn't. I think a valid criticism he points out is that Tesla couldn't be bothered to do self-driving through the tunnel. It's now open. Speed's limited to 35 miles per hour. You still have to drive yourself through the tunnel.
And it takes 20 minutes by foot, and what is it, like 5 minutes by Tesla?
Yeah.
So you save 15 minutes, but it cannot move large numbers of people that distance as fast as regular traffic.
Because safety. It is a tunnel. Like, what if one of the batteries like catches on fire and is emitting noxious fumes? That's a real problem.
Well, they had to install those ladders.
Yeah.
How many average Vegas tourists could actually climb one of those ladders?
Zero.
I mean, they'd get up there eventually, but after a couple tumbles, probably not.
Yeah,
in
but
one piece.
you got one person eventually getting up there while everybody else in the downstairs asphyxiates.
The article suggests that the tunnel might have been better as like one of those conveyors, like at an airport, and I have to say I agree with that.
Probably cheaper too, right?
Yeah. I mean, use the tunnel, the boring machines. I mean, it's cool that you can build a tunnel, blah blah blah, but don't have people drive through it. Just put a conveyor in there.
Here's what you do: just install like a really long grocery store conveyor, and then put a Tesla on it and block the wheels so that it just turns the conveyor with the wheels of the Tesla.
Or maybe two tunnels. One if you need to take your Tesla with you, but if you're just, a pedestrian looking for mass transit, you just go stand on this moving sidewalk.
I don't think the Teslas ever come out of the tunnels.
They
I
don't?
think they just go back and forth. Yeah. Because they're like tunnel Teslas.
Well, yeah, then you definitely need just the...
And I don't think you're driving. I think they have a driver.
well,
I'm kind of
That's lame.
failing to see the point here. I don't understand. Like, why?
so was the Jalopnik author.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think this is just pure Photoshop, or does this version of Rock'em Sock'em Robots exist somewhere?
It looks like somebody really wanted to show off their mini painting skills by 3D printing some heads and then painting them.
Krista, you should get into this.
I think there's a market for that kind of thing.
Customize Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Do like Putin and Trump and Biden and Hillary. That'd be huge. But this has to do with, of course, Apple's whole change to the tracking policy. Now, we've talked a lot about how big companies, and it doesn't get much bigger than this, have spent a lot of time and money building these tracking systems. And they're not just going to let Apple shut it down.
No.
They're going to do everything they can to stop that.
Procter & Gamble will work with the China Trade Group to teach on tech to sidestep Apple privacy rules. So Apple is working with China to sidestep Apple privacy? What? Procter & Gamble, Apple, it's like it's a three-way, kind of. So China really wants to track things. They don't want to be flagged by Apple, and Apple really wants to do business in China. Enter Procter & Gamble to broker some functionality, let's say, between those apps. And that's rolling out. Those changes are rolling out. The article makes some details some of the changes in Apple's iOS, but it's going to be region-specific behavior for Apple devices in China.
So they're trying to fingerprint, and that's not new. Fingerprinting is where they take some combination of variables that are unique to your phone to identify you. But they're kind of doing that on steroids, at least. They're trying to. But Apple has said, if we catch you trying to circumvent our changes, you violate the App Store policy. So what are you going to do? Are they going to lock out Procter & Gamble?
No.
It's a big player.
Yeah. Apple wants to do business in China. Ultimately, they'll do what they must. And that's the problem with taking the moral high ground, is that they're just not in a position to take the moral high ground every time. I mean, financially they are.
Or ever.
But, they're beholden to shareholders or whatever. So
let's think about it in these terms. Because we have to think that Apple's corporate team, and especially their legal team, they're pretty smart, right? I mean, we joke about it, but these are some of the highest paid and highest trained people. Could they not have known when they did all their projections and they were working this up? They had to know that it was possible to work around it in this way. So does that not pretty much confirm this was a PR stunt the entire time?
Yeah.
Because they knew it wasn't going to matter.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the 6th piece of major evidence that it was a PR stunt the entire time.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Do you think it's a PR stunt now, but ultimately it's about controlling the entire advertising industry? It's about having the same level of control as Google, ultimately.
Yeah, and look at what Google's doing.
Yeah.
Google's doing the same kind of thing, just, making sure that they consolidate their power. And it looks like maybe they're giving something up, but they're not.
Yeah. You think when Apple falls on hard times, they're just going to be like, all right, time for new revenue streams. Woo!
Yeah, sure. I think they're already doing it because it's not hard times by any stretch of the imagination, but they're not what they once were.
They're not growing as fast.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dark timeline.
You're only as good as your last quarter. That's how the world works. This was my terribly missorted story from earlier. We kind of already talked about it.
Amazon workers vote down the Alabama union campaign. So Amazon contested 500 and some votes, but the votes that were counted were not the majority required. So
yeah, they won even without those votes.
Yeah.
So they didn't even bother counting them.
Yeah.
And they tweeted and they were like, oh, we're so happy that the workers had their voices heard.
Yeah.
And maybe the workers really did feel this way. I don't know. But the union had some serious sour grapes about this. And they're like, no, Amazon cheated. Here's all the ways that they cheated. We are going to appeal this.
Yeah, one person said that their manager basically said that if this goes through, Amazon's moving the warehouse and they can do it. So, they intimated that a lot of people had that same conversation.
How many threats did they get? And like how many little like newsletters in their pay stubs where it was like, oh, by the way, vote against that or you're going to lose your job. Like,
and they probably, that's probably true. Like they probably would have just moved the warehouse.
Yeah.
So is it really a vote? Is it really fair?
Life ain't fair. Moving on to social media, we have perhaps this is going to be this year's encryption. And we get to hear every week.
Got to chip away at things.
Another politician screaming about this, I think maybe.
The Wall Street Journal's headline is, social media plays a key role for domestic extremism, the FBI director says. So anytime you see a headline like this, just mentally replace social media or whatever it is that they're talking, encryption, whatever, with electricity or running water.
Yeah. But this one, I think this is going to get more traction than the encryption thing. Because there is a lot of horrible things happening in this country that they can point to. I don't know if they would stop it if they stopped social media, but I don't know. This is one of those things that you read it and you're like, wow, that was crazy. Wonder how they fixed it. And then you read this like, oh, they haven't fixed it?
It's not fixed. Yeah.
What? How do you not fix this? Like, how is somebody not desperately working on this and the feature is turned off until that time, right?
You would think. Your WhatsApp account can be suspended by anyone who has your phone number. So it's part of the password reset process. And if you do that a whole bunch of times, it locks out your account.
So this is, they can register as your phone number and start the SMS thing. Now, of course, they won't get that SMS message, but then they continue on hitting the account over and over. And it's kind of like the Apple thing where it's like, oh, if you try too many times, we're going to keep locking you out for longer and longer. And eventually you just can't get in.
And then if you contact support and say, hey, stuff's broken, support's like, I don't know. Somebody reported your phone stolen. I don't know if you're you.
Contact support. How naive. Facebook is once again trying to desperately nudge us ever so gently away from stories that they don't approve of. They've tried so many different ways to do this. None of them work. In fact, many of them seem to have the Streisand effect. People would see those little labels and be like, ooh, controversial. Let's read it. So they're doing more of the same, I guess.
Facebook hopes tiny labels on posts will stop users from confusing satire with reality. So you remember the Babylon Bee and the Onion and those stories that were picked up by, your mom's knitting circle on Facebook?
Yes.
I don't think this is going to help.
But there have been, people have pointed out, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, Onion and Babylon Bee stories that have come true now.
Yeah. Well, the Onion, it's like, does the Onion even have anything to write about anymore?
My mom's going to be like, see, there's a Samsung TV delivered to my apartment. It was real.
And last week we talked about YouTube Kids, and people did not have a lot of good things to say about YouTube Kids. It turns out that when you separate the kids into their own little social media world that nobody really cares about, it becomes just a corporate wasteland. And that's pretty much what we expect from this.
Child safety groups ask Facebook to scrap plans for Instagram for kids. Because what was it the senator said last week about YouTube Kids?
It was incredibly vapid.
A vapid wasteland.
Yeah. And the vast majority were just commercials. So
that is Instagram for kids as well, as it turns out.
They do point out all these studies that say that, when you're that age, putting you on social media pretty much just destroys your whole idea of self-worth and happiness, and you start chasing that dream to be like all the cool kids who are just making it up using filters.
Meh.
Or, it's all just corporate stuff trying to get them to buy things too. Buy your way to popularity.
Gotta get them likes. It's the most important thing in the world. And finally, a hot new, I think this launches today. As we're recording, not as you're watching. By the time you watch this, this will have already probably failed. Nah, it'll take longer than that.
My Pillow CEO Free Speech Social Network will ban posts that take the Lord's name in vain. Oh, are they going to also ban the cartoons featuring Allah? That would be cool.
I doubt it. In fact, he listed 4 things you're not allowed to do. The F word, the N word, that one should be obvious, the C word, and using the Lord's name in vain.
Somebody should have sent him Carlin's list. George Carlin.
I think you're allowed to say some of those. We went from 7 to 4.
Well, there's some new ones on the list from George Carlin's list.
But they pointed out 3 of those are easy. That's just a string. And of course you have to build those like common misspelling. Yeah, Kareem pie. And the problem is, how do you, in a natural language scenario, detect all the different permutations of using the Lord's name in vain? Does gosh darn qualify? Because it's the same sentiment, right?
Yeah. I just want to see them posting, was it? I can't remember the cartoonist's name. That's sad.
The
My
guy
brain's failing.
Who did Pepe?
No, the guy who did the French cartoonist.
Oh yeah, I don't remember his name. The name of the newspaper was
Isn't it like Charlie something?
Charlie Hebdo.
Yeah, that's it.
That was the name of the paper, though.
Yeah. What about like Nietzsche? Or like
God is dead?
Yeah.
Go register right now. Try that out. Let us know. All right, Krista, give us a alternative social network goodbye.
Bye? What's that sound like?
You got to try to do his terrible Minnesota accent.
I've never actually heard him speak out loud.
You never seen the infomercials?
No. Like, I've seen news stories about this guy, but I've never actually seen... I don't watch TV.
I'm pretty sure the Pillow Cube people are going to fill the void where he used to be, so...
I don't know about Pillow Cube. Is that new?
Yeah, that's new.
Sounds exciting. Although cube is not the correct shape for a pillow.
No, they explained in their infomercial why the cube is the perfect shape for a pillow.
Now I got to know.
Yeah, we're going to Google that.
Krista, I think for next week, your homework should be come up with a Mike Lindell impression.
I'll have to look him up because I've never heard him speak out loud.
Also, you'll need to do crack.
A lot of crack.
Where do you source them?
See you on Friday.
Bye. Hello, everybody. Today is April 23rd, and today we're doing Robot and Nonsense. By the time you guys are watching this, Ryan's tooth will be fixed, which we just talked about off camera.
Let's hope.
Let's hope.
I could also be dead.
The news next week will be Ryan's out because he can't talk.
Or just me like, sure,
Just a mouthful of cotton.
Some people would greatly enjoy that based on the comments. So, Tesla.
Again?
They had a good run.
They've been in all 3 episodes this week. What
Well, they're not technically in this headline, but I bet they're concerned about it because another company has been quietly doing some work.
Ford's Blue Cruise self-driving tech just did a 110,000-mile road trip, hands-free highway driving, coming later in 2021.
Highway is the key word there because they do not go as far as Tesla. You got to say, Tesla, one thing about it, ambition. They've got ambition. But Ford is using the similar, I think did the Cadillacs had this, right? Similar to this, where they pick sections of highway, only highway, where they're like, this is a good road. We know everything about it. It's well documented. On this road, you can just take your hands off the wheel because we know this road.
But you need to pay attention just in case you need to brake.
Or, there's a cop on the side of the road, as we've seen so many times.
Yeah.
It won't be like that episode of Knight Rider where David Hasselhoff was asleep at the wheel and had to fake a hearing problem because the popo saw him asleep at the wheel and pulled him over.
Was he in Kit?
Yeah.
Did Kit ever get impounded?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Yeah, that would be an obvious storyline.
Yeah. He let himself out a few times too.
Well, here's an impressive machine. I wish they would build a very tiny version that I could use in my yard. Although I would be afraid about burning my house down because that seems like it could easily be a side effect here.
Isilian, is that how you say that? Founder lifts the hood on farming startup, Carbon Robotics, and its weed zapping machine. It sounds vaguely elvish, don't you think, Krista?
A little bit. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, that's got a little bit of a Tolkien vibe to it.
Isil is the word for moon in Elvish.
Well, I don't know what would be a lunar tie-in here, but this giant brick will drive around your farm, and it uses, vision algorithms to identify the weeds and blast them with some lasers.
Great-great-great-grandmother of the Crushinator from Futurama.
And it works at night, too. So they're saying it can do 100,000 weeds in, was it an hour? It was a crazy number.
Yeah.
But it will also be very expensive, and I don't think they're for sale yet. But that's a cool thing.
It is cool.
Although, could there be a flipped bit? Could we get one of those collisions, those transistor collisions, and all of a sudden all the corn's dead? How much corn could this thing kill left unmonitored?
Crushinator is good at crushinating the weeds.
Or, better yet, Israel gets into it. And all of a sudden it's on the streets of Tehran shooting people in the eye with lasers. Could be bad. But robots are here to stay. We're going to have to either get used to them or go to war with them. I don't see any other way to do it. And the Korean leaders have a clear choice.
The Koreans are telling the South Korean workers need to get used to their shoulder-to-shoulder robot brethren helper things. I can't see the headline because Bloomberg.
Now they're saying that robots aren't going to replace you. Stop worrying about that.
But you need to work with those robots.
But you got to work with them. And when the time comes, you need to transition to a new job as they take over your job.
Wow. You're training your own replacement and it's not even sentient. What an insult.
And it doesn't respect your personal space.
Definitely doesn't.
It's just crowding you all the time.
It's like it's like the Patrick Swayze ghost thing when they're like doing the sculpture, except the robot's got its hands on your hands as you're picking packages.
You're at home. Finally, you get home to your wife, and it's like, oh God, it was all day in the factory, and then the robot's just moving your hands on her. Like, no, robot. This is my bedroom.
This is how I learned to love.
You see those? Remember the gripper bot from Amazon? Yeah. It's like it's got its suction cups arms just running them down her head.
Oh
no! We need to get HR Geiger involved in this. We can maybe get a script out of it.
Put a bunch of like the scales and the tendons and stuff all over the Amazon robots. That'd be cool.
And suddenly it's become Japanese.
Well, this story we talked about before, and I remember thinking, you don't get a better example than this. This is the perfect example of why we shouldn't be doing these things. And I think he is very smart to do this.
Yes.
I think he will win, and he should.
Detroit man sues police for wrongfully arresting him based on facial recognition. This is the one that we reported on like a year ago. My guess is the settlement talks have not gone well, and the Detroit taxpayers will be paying this man for the foreseeable future, I am sure.
I don't remember the exact details of that story, but I remember they did some really suspicious stuff just to get to the point to make him a suspect.
Yeah.
The
And then-
department produced a photo lineup that included the man's picture, showed it to a security guard who hadn't actually witnessed the shoplifting incident, and then got the warrant.
Yeah. And the AI at that point was even worse than it is now. So if you showed it, and I think the picture they used was like really dark as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
it
agree.
accentuated the dark skin color not working with the AI. So it basically said, hey, do you think this blurry dark blob looks kind of like this blurry dark blob? And the AI was like, well, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Well, that's the guy. No, what?
Not like we're just playing with someone's life here. Sure, it looks like him.
What's really funny too is when that story first broke, like the prosecutor and everybody else was doubling down. They were like, "I don't know." It's like, but he's got an airtight alibi. It's like, we're investigating that.
Because admitting you're wrong is not something people in power do. That's one of the biggest problems we have. And when it comes to facial recognition, after we look at how poor it can be, this headline should be a little bit alarming, because in some cases, when we're talking about institutional AI facial recognition, we're accepting that maybe it's not always a good idea. But when it comes to your individual facial recognition, it's all steam ahead.
Billions of smartphone owners will soon be authorizing payments using facial recognition. Cautionary tale, but your face authorizes this transaction, sir. I don't think we should give you a refund.
How hard would it be? Here's a great Instagram idea. If you're, because these people on Instagram are really good at makeup, choose a celebrity that you kind of look like and see if you could make up yourself onto their facial recognition.
And then can you steal their credit card? No.
Well, you don't want to go that far.
Well, Office Max.
Maybe
Remember Office Max way back a long time ago? I used to use my debit card for Office Max, and they had that breach, and everybody's credit card numbers and their PIN numbers were stolen. How did they configure their point of sale system to save your PIN number?
I thought that was illegal.
Yeah, you'd think. So I had some fraudulent transactions, and the bank was like, well, your PIN number was used. And so in those kind of transactions, they don't have to give you a refund. And they didn't until like 6 months later when the investigation, and I had to like bring them newspaper clippings and was like, look, I'm one of the first people that money was stolen from.
That's why you never use debit card.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. Since then, I
Always.
haven't.
Krista, are you running everything through credit now, or are you still using a debit card?
No, I run everything through credit now.
Yeah.
But for a long time, I did not have a credit card.
Because the credit company will refund you in most cases, or they will do the legwork of fighting it.
Yeah.
Versus the bank, which...
Oh, you used your PIN number. Oh, you used your face. I mean, come on. That face recognition is flawless. You could literally just hold up, It's like, are you holding up Ted Danson to the thing? It's like, yeah.
Our facial recognition could never be defeated as they're dragging a random black guy out of the lobby.
Yeah.
And here's something exciting, although it's going to be a long time before we see it. Although with time compression,
Maybe not.
everything comes sooner nowadays because life is meaningless. And I am excited to see this little guy, although again in our area,
No.
I don't think so.
Intel's Mobileye will launch a fully driverless delivery service in 2023. This looks to me like it would be like the regional Walmart getting deliveries to the local Walmarts.
Well, I don't know. It says, hello, Vicky. Who is Vicky? I think Vicky is the recipient, right?
Yeah.
Unless you can
Eventually-
just maybe
Oh,
pay to get your string on there. What were you saying,
It says
Kristen?
those cities, they're starting Oklahoma City, and then they just put Arizona, which is not a city, and then Bay Area and California. Because, of course, California gets everything first.
Well, that's
but why
all-
Oklahoma City?
Because it's flat. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
probably a perfect grid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mountains are just...
That's rough.
They're the robots are allergic to mountains, turns out. Maybe that'll be good for us in the coming robot war. We can hole up in the mountains, in the old mines. Huawei, we talked about Huawei getting into the EV business, and now we know a little bit more about it, including how far they are willing to go with this investment.
Huawei to invest $1 billion in car technology that it says is better than what Tesla has, which, it's not really a super high bar to climb, especially when we keep getting reports about the beta full self-driving. It's like, oh, don't worry, that full self-driving button's coming. I'd be surprised if it's not here by June. It's not going to be here by June.
But the last time they promised that, it did come, except it wasn't self-driving.
And it was garbage.
Yeah. The thing about this story that I thought was interesting, and the previous story as well. So like in the previous story, Intel Mobileye is the technology, but Intel's not building the truck. And this is the same thing. Huawei is doing the technology, but they're going to partner with other car companies. So are we going to get to a point where it's kind of like video games and movies, where there have to be 20 different emblems on the back of your car? Or when you start it up, the splash screen has to show you 10 different intros?
Yeah, that was certainly GM's strategy with the scattergun approach to all of the electric vehicle companies it was buying. It's like, one of these is going to pan out.
But these guys, they're going to want their name on it, right?
You'd think.
Are we going to have Intel inside on cars?
Probably already do. Nvidia certainly is going to want their logo on stuff.
Oh my God. If it comes down to it, are you going to choose an AMD card over an Nvidia card?
Ooh.
Just because of the logo?
It's a long pause.
What a dark future.
And he didn't say no. I was really excited about this because I thought when they said wireless, I thought they meant like no wires into the brain.
No, that's not correct.
But that's not what it is.
A wireless brain-computer interface has been successfully tested on humans for the first time. Definitely don't stand near lightning strikes, because now there's a nice, quick, easy way to get that electromagnetic field inside your brain.
So these guys, they strapped them up to it. Now, this is not all that exciting in terms of what it can do, because we've had the wired version for a long time. But with no motor ability at all, you can type and use a mouse pointer. Now, if you're trapped in your own body...
That seems like a great thing.
Man, how much would you pay for that?
Remember the story we did last year? I wonder how that guy's doing. He had the electrodes implanted, but he had to have it done in South America because nobody would do it. And the surgery didn't really go that well, and he lost his speech. Is he okay?
That's a terrible story.
Hope he's doing okay.
But I'm sure they will miniaturize that, and eventually it'll be small enough where you can just probably, it wouldn't be all that noticeable.
You know how they do this the low invasion surgery where like they cut open your leg and pilot the robot up through one of the really large blood vessels
for heart surgery?
Yeah, I bet that's how they end up doing the brain is they shrink it to like a microscopic version of that kind of filament and just use that filament to pilot it around the structures in your brain to make it minimally invasive.
But you need the base station, I think. But I think they could, if they made it long and thin, they could just shave down part of your skull, right?
Yeah.
Like make a little trench for it.
Yeah.
Pop that in there.
Yeah. I mean, we already do that. I mean, cochlear implants are not really, you could just route it. It's not a huge deal.
Brain surgery, not a huge deal.
Yeah,
well, if you had like the little pilotable tendril things, like there was a little fiber optic cable so you could see.
But do you have to connect that to the outside somehow?
Yeah, I mean, if it was a little pack behind your ear, it would be fine.
Maybe it could come out of your ear. Some wires coming out of your ear. Well, bias. AI bias. I don't think we're going to get away from it.
No.
How long do you think let's say that we took all of the Biden money and all of the brain trust of the world and focused it on fixing AI bias. We still couldn't fix it.
There's not a problem with AI bias. It is like this whole article. I can get rid of it in a blink. The Intercept. The headline is research says Facebook's ad algorithm perpetuates gender bias. Okay, Unilever. They make everything, literally everything.
Well, they make the half of everything that Procter & Gamble doesn't make.
Unilever wants to smell good smelling soap. I like good smelling soap, but their algorithm is going to we want female people to sell advertising for our new floral scented soap. The algorithm is always going to be biased because that data is ultimately making its way into an algorithm. People are spending money and saying, I'm willing to pay for an ad if it goes to someone who is female.
But the reason they're claiming this is because they said Facebook Here are two fake companies. Company A and Company B are identical. The only things that are different between them is that Company A is majority male and Company B is majority female. Please find me job applicants. And somehow the Facebook AI overwhelmingly sent women to the women company and men to the men company.
Yes.
So
because it's based on people like fulfilling and completing and doing the thing.
But wouldn't it probably be more productive? I mean, for years we ran all business like that. There was no mixing of. And in the Middle East, you still don't do that.
No, I'm saying that like the algorithm is trained based on human behavior. And so, of course, it's going to do that. The same way that I'm not going to get, floral scented soap ads.
But when you break it down and you remove the mores of society from it, is the algorithm still not doing what's best?
I don't know about what's best, but it's doing what we've always done, which is not the best.
Not best for people, best for productivity. And like getting a job placement that sticks.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's doing the best that it can with the flawed humans that it has to deal with.
Yeah.
It's like an algorithm that's like, okay, your fetish is you have to murder someone every now and again. Well, here's a homeless person. They probably won't be missed. Thanks, algorithm. I mean, it's a dark place when you go that far with the algorithm.
Also, there is an algorithm that every once in a while, just randomly, it assigns that trait to people. It's human evolution. That happens.
The algorithm has decided you're insanely productive and it's going to give you all this stuff, but it knows that every now and then you have to murder somebody, kind of like Dexter. And it's like, oh, we found this hardened criminal. You can sort of extrajudicially kill him to satisfy your needs, but then you need to go back to work on Monday. All right, sounds good. Thanks, algorithm.
I personally really enjoy the fact that everything in Japan has a little anime mascot. They're adorable, and I wish that American companies would adopt this. I don't think they ever will.
No.
But sometimes they take that too far. Like literally everything doesn't need an anime mascot, especially things that are controversial and really serious.
Japan scraps mascot promoting Fukushima wastewater dump. Oh, little Mr. Tritium.
Is he supposed to be a tadpole? I mean, I guess he's an element of tritium, right? An atom of, I don't know. Krista, what do you think about the design?
Not great. It doesn't really I think he's supposed to be in water in that banner image, but instead of drawing waves coming up around his little flippers, they just put an opacity layer there and it doesn't properly communicate the depth of field. It's a weird image.
So they want to dump all that Fukushima water into the sea. People are obviously...
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, what's wrong with that? Let's screw the ocean.
The biggest objectors are countries who would probably get those... what do you call the water moving under the water? Currents. Those currents would carry the radioactive water to their shores. They're very upset about it, but they insist that it's fine. And if you need any evidence that it's fine, just look how adorable this thing is. How could that hurt you? It's got rosy cheeks.
It's definitely not going to mutate.
That's Godzilla.
I mean, what I love about this too is he's got this mouth. They didn't even make him smiling. He just looks like he's screaming silently.
Because of his high levels of radiation.
Yeah. It doesn't really inspire confidence.
Isn't in the Godzilla movies that usually what wakes up Godzilla so that he comes to destroy civilization? Because it's like, what have they put in the water now?
Yeah, it's always... Although, you know what they did is they switched in Kong versus Godzilla. It wasn't the nuclear war anymore because that's been so long ago. It was just straight pollution. He just ate some radioactive waste. Also, when he shows up for the first time, he's still evolving, and he has these big, dumb, googly eyes, and it's the most hilarious thing. Like, why did they give him the big, googly eyes? I kind of love it, though.
Makes him cuter.
He's adorable with his fire-breathing ice breath.
They couldn't do that yet. They were still becoming.
There's a lot of spoilers here if you're really into Godzilla lore.
Well, if you should have already seen it. How dare you? And here in good old Kentucky, we've had a lot of water this year.
We have.
Too much, in fact. Too much.
Ice dams.
Did you get your new roof?
No,
Oh.
not for a couple of weeks. I still got to finish painting too. I can do that right after this.
But you are getting a new roof because too much water. Yeah. We've just got too much of it. We should ship some down to Vegas.
Water-worried Vegas wants a useless grass to be a thing of the past. You just need to spray paint your concrete green. It's all good.
Now they're saying you need
Or plant native plants
Yeah.
that can survive in that climate.
cacti and shrubs and
Yeah.
desert life plants.
Grass was never meant to be there. Just put shrubs in.
Not very exciting.
And rock gardens.
And times are hard, and some people, they're forced into it. I'm not excusing it, but when things get like this, you turn to crime. And one crime that you might turn to is smuggling. And you might say to yourself, you know what? I'll carry a couple of bricks of heroin over the border. Maybe I'll swallow some balloons. But there might be an even more lucrative thing to smuggle these days. 300
NVIDIA GPUs seized after a high-speed boat chase. So this is going from Hong Kong to China, probably going to a cryptocurrency mining operation, but now you have to register for that kind of thing in China. The authorities were tipped off somehow, and these were seized. So somebody lost many millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency miners.
That's kind of
Yikes.
hilarious. And it's what a weird reality we're living in, that this is a thing people are smuggling.
Yeah. It's amazing. Often we'll get these science headlines and I read them and I say to myself, that can't be good. That's not going to end well. This is definitely one of those times.
Yeah. Studies that make brain-like structures or add human cells to animal brains are ethical, for now, panel says. So we're going to end up making Pan from Pan's Labyrinth and be like, yeah, congratulations.
Krista, what if, Rue is running out, her time is done, and you can tell she's getting old. And they come to you and they say, hey, Krista, you know what? We can do another Rue, but we'll put a little bit of human brain in her.
No.
No?
No. Rue's charm is that she's so dumb.
That is true.
That's what makes her so fun to hang out with. And if we're playing puppy tag and I'm hiding around a corner and she already knows I'm going to be there, is that even any fun?
That's a good point. What if you could do a version of Rue that was a little bit dumber?
Then it would be like, then she's peeing in the house and that's not fun. I dealt with that when she was a puppy.
She'd basically be a stuffed animal at that point.
Yeah.
A stuffed animal that pees and poops.
Constantly.
I mean, it's amazing to me that Rue doesn't understand corners. That corners are fascinating
No.
to her.
Yeah, like I'll run around a corner and then like sometimes I'll hide behind the curtain or I'll hide like behind another corner. And she'll come around the corner and she's like, where'd she go? But there's only like 3 or 4 places I can hide in any room, but she gets confused.
This headline is the thing. The way I like to think about these stories is how crazy is it that we live in our society right now where everything's becoming woke, and the canyon of difference between that and this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing that we are sharing the same planet, and yet we have such different ideas. And not only are we sharing the same planet, but we're competing and sporting against one another. And it leads to things like this.
Iran censors a soccer match over 100 times due to woman referee. So,
And let's take a look at this ribald slut. Oh, what? Oh, yeah, here
There's
she
a
is.
picture of it in Twitter, yeah.
You won't believe what this filthy girl is wearing. Oh, my God.
Shorts that are slightly, not even very far up above her knee.
this is one way that the internet is kind of a great equalizer because we can all look at this and laugh, but also at the same time, it's like, does anybody, like, is this just posturing? Like, why would they do this?
So anytime she was on the screen, they would cut to another, I guess they would cut to the crowd or something, but they would not show you action on the field if a camera was pointing at that girl. You think she's going to become internet famous?
Probably.
That's a weird thing.
Do you think next time they'll force her to wear pants, even though it's probably like 100 degrees?
Why are you applying for asylum? Oh, because I want to be a soccer referee. Okay.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just the pants. They also insisted that she cover her hair. And that could really interfere with your job there, don't you think?
Yeah.
Because you got to see. You got to have peripheral vision if you're a referee. It's weird. And this one, I read this and I just felt bad for the world
Yeah.
because this is really, really ridiculous and this is really authoritarian. This is something that I could see this happening during the police encounter, but getting overturned later. But no, they just doubled down with it.
Tyrannical court asserts that farting does not count as free speech. And I can't help but notice that the author has a South Park-looking caricature because pretty sure Trey Parker and Matt Stone would disagree with you that farting is actually free speech.
William Hughes holding out. I'm not putting. I stand with him. No avatar pictures. But here they did point out in the story that this country is a member of the EU. I don't even remember what country it was. Do you? It was like
Austria.
Austria, yeah. The EU free speech rules contradict what they did here.
Yes.
So will this go to an EU court?
We'll probably get some hilarious ruling like making farting noises is free speech, but actually farting is not free speech.
But this guy was having a disagreement with a cop and just farted.
Yeah,
And the cop-
I don't understand.
Yeah, the cop was like, "That's disrespectful. You're going to jail." Did they pass that federal law where you're not allowed to disrespect cops, or was that a state?
That was state, and that did pass.
That is because, listen, I am not capable mentally.
It's because they murdered that poor guy that owned the barbecue in Louisville.
I cannot. I am in no. There's no universe that I can respect cops. I can't do it. So I'm immediately, I'm breaking the law just by existing.
Will you be considered sarcastic if you try?
I don't know. I'd be lying to them. You're not allowed to do that either, right? This is we did go. We got a couple of months there without one of these stories,
Yeah.
but you can't get away from them entirely. You're eventually going to get another one.
Liberal MP caught stark naked during House of Commons video conference. He had just gone for a jog, and he, wanted to take a quick shower and change, but he was still listening to what was going on at the meeting. His camera was on.
How do you make that mistake? They say
How are
covered
you
up.
not paranoid about your camera at all times, like I am?
Now, here's the thing about it. They said that in the shot, you could see everything except for his genitalia because he was covering it with his phone. What kind of angle? What? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Australia, the stereotype, the joke that we constantly make and that everybody constantly makes is how deadly all of their animals are and how they're all just looking to kill you and hiding in the most unsuspecting places because they hate humanity and you shouldn't live there.
Yeah, venomous snake discovered chilling out in an Aldi lettuce bag purchased in Australia. Because that's just, it's like, oh, hey.
That's just how it works there.
Now, here's the thing about it. And I realize that the bags of lettuce that I purchase were pulled from a larger pool of lettuce that was probably teeming with snakes. But this guy ate the lettuce after he found the snake. Would you eat the lettuce after you found it?
No.
Krista?
There's no chance.
I don't think I would.
I mean, there's no reason not to. Except the fact that you're just like, oh, there was a snake in that.
I mean, can you really wash it to a sufficient degree?
Remember for a
You
while
could've
there,
been defecating in there for how long? Like,
it was like 8 or 10 years ago. They came out with that detergent for vegetables. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And that did not catch on.
No.
yeah, who pays for that?
No one, it turns out.
Well, they still
Yeah.
put that on like apples. So apples come with a coating that you're not supposed to eat. You're supposed to wash it off.
But I think that's more for the presentation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not the... I think that's
Presentation and maybe preservation.
that's what that stuff was supposed to interact with, I think, right?
Mhm.
And wash away. Yeah, it'll make you stronger.
Grow your own. Grow
Premature
your own
kidney
lettuce.
failure. Woo.
Grow your own apples. That takes a while.
But lettuce is super easy.
Well, Krista, what about mushrooms? You are the resident mushroom expert. And I think maybe if you get more into mushroom research, you can save the world like these people are doing.
I don't know if I have qualifications for this, but could plastic eating mushrooms solve mankind's plastic problem? They're also making leathers out of mushrooms. So they're not animal based, which is kind of interesting.
That's interesting. Mushroom leather. Do you still have to go through the tanning process and everything with mushroom leather?
I think so. It's very I keep hearing about some brands that are using it, but it's still very kind of obscure. I don't think it's a widespread process yet.
So these are just some random mushrooms that they've found in weird places, sometimes in places where there's so much plastic that it seems like evolution just stepped in. And one of them was in the Amazon. I don't know how that one got into plastic eating. I guess there's plastic in the Amazon. But the thing about it is they do a very good job of converting plastic into something else that degrades. The problem is speed.
Yeah.
Not very fast.
I wish I could. I read a paper a long time ago about how part of the reason that the Amazon's nitrogen cycle is so jacked up is because there may be so much old pottery in the soil that's decaying from some sort of mega civilization that was around the Amazon river. That's why the Amazon rainforest is so insane.
I think some of it has to do with the burning.
Yeah. Well.
Also, these guys should have known before they ever started that this would be a very slow process because Toad is the slowest Mario Kart character.
I always liked playing Toad. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's garbage," but I think I could control his character better.
Everybody's gonna be
As
like,
a
"It's
child.
Bowser."
Yeah.
I don't even know who to. I don't actually know. I just went with the joke, people. Some of you need to understand that not everything is literal.
But tell us your favorite Mario Kart character below.
Tell us the
Mine was
slowest
actually
one.
Toad.
The NFT craze. Could this be the peak?
Yes.
Could we be looking at
This is peak insanity.
the tipping point?
Yeah.
Because where could we go from here?
Nowhere.
Give me one thing that makes less sense than this.
It's hard.
Can we start like daisy chaining NFTs? Like an NFT for an NFT for another thing? Can we do that? Because this is just, it's astonishing.
Single pixel of digital-only art sold for more than $1.7 million at Sotheby's. Is that how you say that? They're famous art auctions.
Sotheby's, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Good on the artist, because I feel like the artist was probably completely self-aware about what was happening.
Oh,
Some
he did
idiot
it.
bought it anyway.
He did a whole NFT suite of stuff. He sold a ton of crap that day. This was just one of them. And my God, he's also got this cube.
He knew what he was doing.
I don't understand any of it. Yeah, I think the artists definitely know what they're doing.
The idiot who bought it maybe didn't realize what they were getting. But
I also, like, it's one thing to give them a single pixel, but to choose the most boring single pixel color.
Oh, no, that's going up in somebody's home art right now. Like in their art gallery, it's going to be that, and it's going to be like this.
But what, I mean, you have to blow it up, right? But
No,
then you're turning your one pixel into more pixels.
The pixel is
maybe
does
it's an
not.
SVG.
Yeah, it doesn't conform to our Euclidean
vector.
space. It can be as large or as small as you want.
But once you print that onto paper, now it's no longer a pixel. Now it's a dot, right?
Well, no, I mean it could be huge.
But you're converting it. You'd have to
Yeah.
have a 1x1 monitor to display this. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the way it should be displayed.
Yeah, that's true.
But we're arguing about something that literally doesn't even exist. It's not even real. So
Does it get its own Pantone color? I mean, I would think for 1.7 million, it would get its own Pantone color.
I think it's a known color. Krista, was that a truck? Did we hear another truck?
Yeah, a truck just went by. I think that looks like the hex code, like just 666666, like
Oh, it's the devil.
just gray.
That's delightful.
Oops.
There was a creepy eye there. That's your
Whoa.
webcam. Will make video calls uncomfortable.
I didn't click it, but did you see they have a do-it-yourself version of this?
No.
But I don't like. How do you get the
Oh.
creepy parts?
Probably like 3D print it, and then the rest is silicone, right?
Ugh. So this is, I guess, this is more of an art project. It does make you think about that thing that's always looking at you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can, it's easy to ignore. I mean, Jesus, we're staring at a ton of it,
Wow.
and it's easy to get used to it. But it would be much harder to get used to this.
The creepy eye-shaped webcam will make video calls uncomfortable. They were already uncomfortable.
Yeah, as if they weren't already.
Look how, like, the expression of that eye looks like it knows something.
Yeah, it knows you're not working.
Oh, there's video of him like stroking it, and it's like closing its little eye. I don't like it. Just a hunk of flesh with an eyeball in it.
Oh, it is so disturbing.
Please no.
My God, I don't want that.
We should get one.
I don't know
Do
if
a
they're for
review.
sale yet. But they did a good job of making it human and making the movements.
If I'd known that this was going to get 1 million hits, I would have done this years ago. Put one of these on top of ... It'd be amazing.
Ugh. Imagine when things are back to normal and we have clients come over. Oh, I think my camera froze. We have clients come over to the office and then like, oh, hang on, let's teleconference in, and then they just see that eyeball at the top. Oh.
I don't think we can fix this on our end, can we?
No.
Let me connect and reconnect.
That was a great freeze frame, though. Maybe. Oh, that was us.
Is it back?
There you
Yeah.
You're going to have to maybe try a different USB port or something.
I literally plugged and replugged it right before we started, so.
You know what? Maybe we'll get you one of these cameras.
Oh, yeah, and I can look at that the whole time. Ugh.
And our final story, I was torn between which one of those to make the final story. But I had to go with this one because this image is so fantastic. Because I'm pretty sure that is a woman's reproductive.
Let's not say thing.
And it's made of flowers.
Yeah.
That's a lot. What's the dollar value of those flowers?
Oh, it's several $1,000s at least.
Really.
Somebody put a lot of work into this.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mother's Day is coming up. That's a social warning.
Yeah, May 8th.
Prepare
in the
yourself
US.
for that. Obtain flowers and/or a gift. And but if you don't have any ideas, if you're like, I don't know what to get my mom, I need some suggestions. Miss Gwyneth Paltrow has so many wonderful suggestions for you.
No, she doesn't. Need a Mother's Day gift? Why not? Well, no, we're not going to talk about that. Or a yacht trip, says Goop, and then there's the picture. This is, it's the Goop Lab. Yeah, we all know what that is.
Well, let's talk about some of these hits. Oh, are we getting paywall?
We got paywall.
I didn't. So $600 bidet is listed on here. Let me scroll
It better
down.
be a pressure washer for that kind of money.
Oh, present suggestions also include a fedora hat embroidered with the exact astrological positions of the moon, stars, and planets when your child was born for
nice.
$2,500.
Those are
A
handy.
brand identity and design service for $700.
Because every mother needs that.
A luxury yacht ship to Croatia for $105,000. $100,000.
Do you get to keep the yacht?
Why Croatia?
Is that just a
'Cause
trip,
she's-
or do you get to keep the boat?
I think it's just a trip.
No, I think that's just the trip.
And you forgot the vibrator necklace, Krista.
Yeah.
Because
So they mentioned this in the article. I watched this video. So on Vogue, she did a video of like her skincare routine, which was absurd. But my favorite part was when she applied her sunscreen and she just dabbed it on her cheeks, and I was like, "Oh, so that's why you have sun damage, because you're applying it like a highlighter."
does she have sun damage?
Oh yeah, you can tell.
But I gotta
You gotta wear
say,
sunscreen every day, chat.
I don't know how old a gal she is. I know that she's probably older than us, right?
Yeah.
She's like your guys' age. I think she's like 45.
She does look pretty amazing. Krista, we are not 45.
You're not?
No.
Wow.
How old am I?
Insensitive. No, I'm not upset. I'm not upset that you don't know my age, Krista. I'm upset that you're adding years to me.
Look, you made me do the tux.
She
Store.level1text.com.
In the video, you can tell though, like she's kind of starting like around her chest area where she's not applying sunscreen. You can tell there's some damage there. Gotta wear it. Gotta get that skincare in, chat.
Shade being thrown, chat. Krista
People
has
were like, people were saying it was not particularly a good skincare routine when you're telling people don't wear sunscreen because you're preventing skin cancer. Like,
Krista is throwing down right now. She's saying she's got better skin than Gwyneth Paltrow.
well, I mean that's not really a fair comparison. I am quite
That's
a bit
right.
younger than
You got
her.
15 years on her. But
Yeah.
actually probably more than that. But I'm saying most girls that age don't look like that. She's doing something
Yeah.
right. I don't know if it's those candles or what, but it's working.
Or maybe the expensive, $100,000 yacht trip she's taken.
I gotta get on Ray Kurzweil's vitamins or whatever the heck that is. I feel like that's more attainable.
When did he start doing that? How old was he when he started doing that?
He was like 40, 45.
So we could still.
Yeah.
I don't think we could afford it.
Well, yeah, probably not. Depends on what it is.
My husband
remember-
bought some just regular vitamins the other day, and he was like, "Why are they so expensive?"
In that documentary, he was taking 100 capsules every morning. Wow. And that has got to be a daily cost that is just astronomical.
Probably peeing most of that out too.
I would think, yeah.
He's got this whole plan, Krista. It's fascinating if you want to read about it. And I haven't looked at a picture of him recently.
It was definitely working like 5 years ago.
Something was working, yeah. He should start a goop.
But the issue is when you like blast yourself with that many products, it's hard to isolate which one is the most effective.
Yeah, well, he's just scorch earth.
Yeah.
Although, imagine if he stopped. Imagine if the supply chain really broke. Would his body be able to make any of that anymore?
It was like in the Indiana Jones movie when the guy picked the wrong grail and aged.
He's
Just melts.
5 hours after he misses his vitamins, starts to melt. I take zinc and magnesium every night to help me sleep. And when I don't, my body's just like, I guess we'll stay up. I'm not making that anymore.
I tried taking melatonin, and it did nothing for me.
Yeah, I didn't get
Absolutely nothing.
zinc and magnesium, Krista. Try that.
Maybe.
I've switched to a multivitamin that has zinc, and it does make a big difference.
Well, that's it for this.
Yeah, that was it, chat. Mother's Day warning, you got like 2 weeks.
Krista, say goodbye as if you were on your way to take your yacht to Croatia.
Bye! I was just happy.